So welcome back to Bitfumes, and this is Angular 5 in 60 minutes, and let's see what we are going to learn in this episode. So we are going to learn about what is Angular, then how to install it, and the most important thing, what is the Angular architecture, obviously in depth. So when this episode finishes, you will be able to create this kind of app where we have the routing system, and without page load, the components are switching between two, and then we have the list of Marvel heroes. We can add new Marvel hero by saying here Hulk and then add hero, and when I add this portion, the adding portion will go off, and we can again get that by clicking add more and toggle between that. So there are many things. You can see this is disabled, but if I type something, it is enabled, and this all in this episode. Something about me: I'm your instructor Sarthak Shrivastava, and you can follow me on any of these platforms at Bitfumes. Okay, so what actually is Angular? Angular is a platform to design a modern web app. It's a framework. Obviously, it's not a library. It's a framework of JavaScript. Angular is a cross-platform. This means the app you design in Angular can work on web as well as for mobile also. Angular is best suited for single page application. Single page application means when the user click on any link, the page doesn't reload. This means it will just look like a changing of page, but at last no changing of page, only the component or the part user going to see is changed. So that's SPA, single page application. And Angular is a part of mean stack. Mean stack means M for MongoDB, no SQL database, and then E for Express.js, A for obviously our Angular, and N for Node.js. The combination of all fours called mean stack, and Angular is the most important part of this mean stack. This mean stack is used for creating a great modern web apps, and that's the main purpose of mean. There are various things related to Angular like React, Vue.js, Ember.js, etc. But all these things I consider as library, not a framework, but Angular is a framework. And my personal favorite is Angular. Why? Because you don't have to rely on any other packages or anything. Just like for React, routing in React, you have to get another package, but Angular gives everything out of the box. Okay, so let's see what Angular is not. Angular is not a library, as I had told you. It's not even a plugin. You cannot get Angular in some other JS framework. Obviously, it's not an extension like Chrome extension, and again, it's not a package you can use in your existing project. So there are some assumptions before learning the Angular. You must have the knowledge of JavaScript and some tools like classes and modules. That's very important to learn. If you don't know these things, that doesn't matter, because this thing just speed up the learning process. If you don't know JavaScript and classes, that's not a problem. Yeah, you will take some little more time for learning Angular, but at the last, you will surely learn Angular without these things. So as I told you, JavaScript, but Angular doesn't use JavaScript directly. Angular uses TypeScript. And what is TypeScript? TypeScript is a superset of JavaScript. Superset means it includes optional static typing. Think about optional static typing just as some enhancement in JavaScript. Some more modules, functions, etc. are added to JavaScript so that it creates a new language called TypeScript. TypeScript is compiled finally to JavaScript, as I had told you, and think about compiling to JavaScript as whatever code you write, we write in English. But at the last, we know that computer only understand binary 0 and 1. So everything is compiled to 0 and 1. There are many meanings of compile, and you will search, you will get exact meaning according to you. Okay, and TypeScript is maintained and created by Microsoft. Great. So let's see some fun stuffs. Fun stuff means why Angular name? Why they call it Angular? Because HTML has Angular brackets. You know, these less than, greater than brackets, and that's the main purpose of using name as a Angular. And why namespace called ng? Later we will see everything is related to ng, like ng for, ng if, everything. So why ng? Because ng sounds like Angular JS, because and the starting of Angular framework, Angular was just Angular JS, but now it's only Angular. So ng is just like a traditional way of using as a namespace. So these things are here. Now we have to see the architecture overview, but before learning this, let's see how we can install Angular in our machine. So to get Angular in your machine, you must have the node module. So you have to go to nodejs.org website, and here you can download Node.js for your system. I already downloaded that. So if I type node-v, yeah, this gives me the latest node version I have. Or if I say npm-v, it's like node package manager, npm. Its version is also given here. So after installing these things, and by the way, these two are combined in a single Node.js. If you download one thing, yeah, you will get both node and npm both. Okay, so now how we will install Angular? To install Angular, we need Angular CLI. CLI stands for command line interface. So let's install Angular CLI. So we will say npm install -g, it will globally install in our machine, and then I will say @angular /CLI and hit enter, and it will download that CLI in your machine. So now our Angular CLI is installed. So to check, let's type here ng and hit enter, and if everything goes correct, then you will see these things. That means the list of command we have on ng. So ng-v, does this work? Yeah, it says Angular CLI and CLI version. So it's just Angular CLI, no Angular is installed yet. So now let's install Angular. So to install Angular, we have to say ng new and your project name. I'm going to give project name as Angular 5. Okay, so that's good, and hit enter, and now our package is going to install via that Angular CLI. Okay, so let's just wait for this. So now Angular is also installed in our machine. So now cd into that folder, so Angular 5, and now I will start this in Sublime. So SUVL dot, and yes, we have this on Sublime. And for Sublime, I have installed one package. So if I press Ctrl Shift and P, and I will search for the list packages, because I already have installed. So you will see I have Angular 2 snippets. I did get only this one. If I get other packages for Angular 5 specifically, I will surely add that in the comment section or in the description later. Okay, so this is the project installed by our CLI, Angular CLI. But what these things are, you can see E2E, we don't have to care about because it's end-to-end thing. It comes when we are going to test something. Node modules include all of the npm node packages. Okay, so everything is here. We don't have to touch this also. And the main folder is src source folder, and obviously inside that the absolutely main is app.js. Here we do all our codings. So now let's go to slides and see what the architecture says and what we have to learn. So if I go here on the architecture, the architecture includes the modules. Modules are the basic fundamental of Angular. Angular has a modular system. Okay, then Angular has the components. So everything we Create is a component, so you have to separate each and everything in a new component so that everything will be separate and easily manageable, and that's the main purpose of any kind of framework. Then the templates. Obviously any component has some templates. How it going to looks like decided by the template. Then the architecture also include metadata. Metadata is like some information about something else. We will see all these things in later, just list all these things what we have to learn. Then the data binding. Obviously we are using JavaScript framework or a JavaScript system, so we have to modify our template, modify our DOM according to our need or the according to user interaction. Here comes the data binding. Data binding, data you bind to any tag or anything else, that's called data binding. So how these things set in our project we have just installed. So let's start with modules. So ng modules. Modules is just like a collection of similar kind of functions in a set. So think about that as a set of functions including in a packet. So modules are there. So Angular apps are modular called ng module, but where these are on project. So let's go to project, go to source app. You can see we have this app.module.ts. Here comes every module. So now we have at module, and this is actually our modular system. Okay, so next is at least one module called app module. This means every Angular app must have a app module, and if you are not getting that, think about app module as a simple class. And what is class? Class is a collection of functions. So I have told you every Angular app must have an app module. Okay, so this is good. And then class with at ng module decorator. Here comes a new word called decorator. What is decorator? Decorator are functions that modify JavaScript class, and this is a part of TypeScript. I have told you TypeScript has a special functionality over JavaScript, yes, and then the classes of the JavaScript can be modified, can enhanced by using this decorator. So let's see what this at ng module decorator will do here. So if we go to app.module.ts, we have this at ng module, and it's getting an object of metadatas. Metadata, data for other data. Okay, so you can see we have various data like declaration, imports, providers, and bootstrap. Okay, so this is going to enhance the class which is app module. So this is decorator. Ng module is a decorator for app module. Whatever the class decided, just below any decorator is going to attach with that. So just below at ng module decorator we have app module class, so it's now connected to this class. But where this ng module came from? This ng module came from Angular core. You can see, but where is Angular core? Angular core, if I open my package.json, you can see the dependencies are Angular core, but where it is placed? Yeah, it is placed inside node modules folder. You can see Angular and Angular core. This is here. So everything we have on node module we are going to import like this. And let me just tell you one thing. You can see there are two kind of import. One is this, other is imports inside this ng module. Okay, so this one at the top, the imports everything, is JavaScript style of importing something. So we have imported the app component, the ng module, the browser module from different sources like at Angular core, but we have to tell, hey Angular, we have imported this ng module, you can now get that and apply it to whole project. Then Angular import once again this from ng module. So inside ng module we have imports. Angular is importing browser module from here, which is coming from platform-browser. So in this way, a class is created, or you can see a module is created for Angular. This is the basic block of Angular. So let's see the next part. So next is components. So we have seen that, yeah, that's okay, there are node modules and Angular is modular, but what is component? Component are a class which has some functionality related to its template. So a class which interact with view. Yeah, view means whatever HTML part or whatever we see on the DOM. Okay, so this is the component. We do all kinds of logics in our component, and there are many life cycle hooks like ng on init, ng destroy, like that. So let's see everything in action. So how Angular first get started? Angular started bootstrapping by using app component. We have to tell Angular that, hey Angular, this is your first ever component. When you come to start a project, go to this app component. And where this come from? Again, it's come from app component, app.component, which is this one, app.component.ts. I'm not going to talk about app.spec.ts because it's only for testing purpose. So whenever a project start, it go to app component. And let's see how this app component looks like. So open app.component.ts. App component is a simple class. Let's just delete these things. Okay, so clear out things. It's simple class. As I have told you, a class which interact with view. So for the view, we have told that there is a variable called title. Its value is app. Okay, but where this is going to connect? Now comes the other things. So now we have to enhance this class, and we know that to enhance class in a TypeScript we use decorator. So here is add component decorator, and this component add component decorator come from component, again Angular core. And what it going to do? It's going to say we are going to attach this app class with some kind of selector. That means it's like the name of the component and how you will call this. So it's an app root. So whenever we are going to use it, we are going to use it like app root. So if I go to my index.html, you can see we are using app root, and actually only this page is going to load when a website or any app is going to first load. Then everything is done by this app root component. So this app root component is the name here. So if I change it to app Bitfumes, here we have to change here also app Bitfumes like this, and similarly here. But how this reflect? To start a project in your Chrome, you have to say ng serve, but if you say -o, it will open in a new tab of your browser. So it will compile everything and then open in the browser. And now you can see it's now starting on our Chrome with a localhost :4200, and everything is looking supremely fine. And why is that? We have changed the name, but as we have changed the name here on index.html, we have also changed the selector. That means how we can call a component. Okay, so that's good, but what else? And I have to tell you that there are many life cycles in hook. And what about that? So you can see I can create here ng on in it. I can create this function, and let's console.log hello. What this will do? This will do one thing, that whenever the component loads, it's going to console hello. So refresh and you can see hello is here. This is because on ng on init is a lifecycle hook. So when component created, then do that thing whatever we have given here. So this is the very important part of component. So you can define any variable here, you can create any lifecycle hook, you can create a function here, and here I will call that function as message. Okay, and that function will going to console log hello. Okay, and now I'm going to call that function here. So I will say this dot message, and why not do one thing, I'm going to pass the title here. So I will say this dot title. So whatever we have on the title, it's going to log here. So I will say value here and value here. So save this and go to Chrome, and you can see app is consoled here. So if I now change the title here, my title, save this, go here, and suddenly you can see my title is here. So this means you can do whatever you want to do. There are functions, there are variables, there are lifecycle hooks, various things are here to perform various kinds of actions. So I will just undo everything to move to next part. So let's go to the next part. So we have understand what is components. Component is just a class which define various things. But how component get whatever is given here? We see that there is logo, there is welcome to app, and then all these links are here, but we can't see these things where these are. So to see these things, we need to understand what is template. So template tell Angular how to render component. So that's okay. Yeah, we have the component, we can do various things, but functions, these variables are related to some of the HTML part. So templates are like HTML part with some enhancement. So you can see the component decorator, add component decorator has three kind of metadata: selector, as we have seen that the name of the component, then the template URL or the style URL. Also the template URL going to give what HTML we are going to render when this component going to called, and obviously the style URL give the styling for these HTML. So it says app.component.html, which is here, and if I open this, you can see this base 64 version of Angular logo, which you can see here. And now these tags and these links are here, so everything is here. But you can see one strange things: double curly braces and the title. Here is the new thing. Yeah, and that's what I told you, template as a HTML with some more functionality. We can add this variable to our template, to our HTML via double curly braces. So my title name I have changed like my title, and if I go, and you can see welcome to my title instead of welcome to app. So this is good thing because we can use the component variable into the template. That's the power of template, and that template tell how to render component. So template are same as HTML but with some differences, as I told you, some differences like these curly braces and title. And then comes the metadata. We have learned that this add component decorator has some kind of the metadata, and these metadata tell the decorator to modify this class. So this means this whatever class defined just below the decorator is going to attach all these metadata to this class. So what metadata is? Tell Angular how to process class and then attach metadata via decorator. We have seen that decorator are the function that modify the JavaScript class, and that's what is going here. This Metadata tells the component class how to render this class, how we can use the template, how we can select the component. All these things are done by metadata. Okay, so this means metadata is very good. And similarly, add component is decorator, identify class immediately below it, as I have told you. Now comes very important and very interesting part, the data binding. But before going to data bindings, let's create a new component from our terminal. Let's open new terminal firstly, and we will say ng generate, and instead of generate you can just say g, and we want to generate component, so component, and again for component you can use c and your component name. My component name will be Marvel Heroes. Okay, so that's okay, and now hit enter, and it will generate a new component in our project. But where this going to create? So you can see we have 4 create but 1 update. Let's see where is that. So open Sublime, and you can see on our app folder we have a new folder called Marvel-Heroes, and we have all 4 files just like we have these 4 files except this app module. As I have told you, there is only one app modules file. And here is interesting thing. Via using this command, we seen that there is an update on app.module.ts file, and that update is it imported the Marvel Hero component from this, and obviously that added to declarations, and this is what we have to do every time we create a new component. So let's see here what we have. We have a Marvel Hero work. We have to use this component somewhere, and where we are going to use? We are going to use that in our app.component.html, and here instead of all these things I want to delete everything, then HTML5 markup, and I will say Marvel Heroes, and here I'm going to say app-Marvel-Heroes, and let's close this. But why this name? Let's see. If I open my marvel-hero.component.ts file, you can see as we have this at component decorator, we have defined some metadata and the selector. Remember, I have told you selector is the name of component, and the name is app-marvel-heroes. That's fine, and that's why we have used this. So now if I go to Chrome, and you can see it says Marvel Heroes work. That's very nice, but it's not looking pretty. So let's get Bootstrap. Yeah, so grab this one and go to terminal, paste this and install it. So our Bootstrap is installed. So let's now import this. There are various ways via you can import Bootstrap in your project. One is you can define that on global style.css, or you can define that on angular-cli.json. So if I go here on the styles, you can see here I can define node modules, then Bootstrap, then list, then css, then bootstrap.min.css. and if you don't know about this path, you have to go to node modules folder and then search for Bootstrap folder, and then dist css and bootstrap.min.css. That's very nice. So this is one way, and you can see I have used this one, although angular-cli.json file is outside the source, so we can directly do that, but actually this is not the case. This is connected to this HTML file, so we have to give the path reference to this index.html file. So for index.html, to approach node module, we have to go out of the up directory. Okay, so this is why double dot. And if I now go to Chrome, you can see, let's refresh. It's not going to work because we have to restart the server. So let's just restart the server, and now you can see it's now compiling and now opened in a new tab. And yes, you can see app hero works and somewhat styling is changed. If you're not convinced, why not go here and move this inside a container. So container is here and that's great. Now go and you can see it's now moved inside a container. That means our bootstrap is working properly. That's very nice. So as our component and bootstrap both are working properly, let's go to data binding once more. And what actually a data binding? Data binding is just like interaction between component and the template. So it coordinate between these two and it's like giving instruction to template and from template to component. So first one is interpolation and we have already seen that when we have used the title. So let's now create some for Marvel Hero component. So I will go to app Marvel Heroes, then Marvel Heroes component.ts. Here in this class I'm going to create a new hero. So firstly hero, and that hero is everyone's favorite, Iron Man. Da, 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 da. Okay, so I want to use this Iron Man on the component. So here we have the component. So why not do one thing? Let's use double curly braces and here we have to say hero. Let's see the result. And you can see Iron Man is here. So this is the first data binding we can see. But next is property and its value. To demonstrate property binding, let's now go here and instead of this, let's now create one more button. So button will be like show more. Okay, and this will be good. So let's give a class of btn success. So how it's look like, and yeah, it's looking good. That's fine, but there is one property called disabled. Okay, so now see, and you can see it's now disabled. You cannot click. But suppose you want to bind this, that means you want to conditionally disable that. So let's create a new data here. So I will say btn disable is equal to initially it is false. So here to tell Angular that I want to bind this property to some of my data. So I will define that binded property inside a square bracket and make this equal to our btn disable, and that should has to be like this. Okay, and now if I go here, you can see it is show more, it's clear, we can click it, that's okay. But if I now go here and change it to true, you can see it's now disabled. So this means now the property of this button is in control of Angular. So this is property binding. Then comes event handling. Now suppose I want to change the hero name from Iron Man to something like Black Panther. Okay, but how will I change that? I want to change when I click here. So instead of this, let's just give another property called on click. But it's a JavaScript, core JavaScript. We are on TypeScript or in our Angular. So in Angular, you have to bind any event, then you have to say in parenthesis and the event name is equal to, then comes the handler or the function which going to handle this event. So let's give the handler, and handler name is change hero and parenthesis to make this as a function. So now this will also change my hero, and now we have to just copy this, and now on the component we can define that function. And here comes, as I have told you, every logic comes in our component. So let's say this dot hero is equal to Black panther. So now let's just make this as a false, otherwise the button will be disabled. So let's go, and yes, that's okay, and it's his Iron Man. But if I click change my hero, it's now Black Panther. So this is very cool. So our next binding is ng model property. And what is that? It's like two-way binding. So you can see these arrows. First arrow represent it's only going from component to DOM, the value, the interpolation part. Again, the property also going from component to DOM, but the third one will interact from template to component. You can see we are doing something on our template, and that reflect on our component. So that is the main purpose of the event handler. But what if I want to do simultaneously on both sides? It's like in a input field. So let's now go here and create another one. But before doing that, let's now move all these things inside a UL having a list group of class. Okay, and then we have ally with a class of list group item. Okay, and let's move this hero inside here, and obviously this button from here, clean up everything, and one more, and here comes the button. That's nice. So when I do something, clean up part. Yeah, okay, let's see how it looks like. Yeah, that's okay. Let's give some margin type thing, row, and inside dot call 4 and offset of 4 also. So let's move these things here. Let's see. Yes, looking quite nice. So change hero, that's going to be working. So now one more ally, and inside here I'm going to create an input tag. So input field with a class of form control. Okay, so how it look like? Yeah, that's good. But what I want to type here some name, and then I want to populate that on here. Instead of this Iron Man, I want to move this inside here when I click on this button. So let's see how we can do that. This means whenever I click here, so I want to bind this, I want to some event, and that is ng model. So you can see we are using both things. We are using square braces, which we use for property binding. We use parentheses, which we use on the events, because this is both, this is two-way. Okay, that's why. So here comes the property. So which property you want to connect with as a ng model? So let's create input hero like this, and that should be initially null. Okay, and now I want to configure this as input hero. So let's see the result. We are getting error, and it says can't bind ng model, and that's because we have to tell Angular that, hey Angular, I want to use ng model, and because ng model is a part of form module, I think you heard it right, module, we have to import that module. So let's now go to app.module.ts, and here I'm going to import forms module, and that will be from at Angular/forms, and this is importing as a JavaScript import, but we have to tell about this import also. So why not go here on the ng module, and here we have to say, yeah, we have one more module, let's add this into the list. So if I now go, and you can see it's now doing something, and with no error, everything is working fine. And if I type something, everything is good, no error. But we just want to replace this text with this. But let me show you one thing. Now go here on the HTML part, and just below here I will create one more list group item, and here I will say input hero. Let's see the result, it will be fun. Okay, so here you can see it's now empty, the third one, But if I say hello, you can see everything is connected. As I type, it's typing on this here. So this is good. This means our ng model is working properly, but we need to do something else. So let's now remove that. Okay, so when I click, I want to go to change hero function we have created, and now I want to say this dot hero, instead of Black Panther which we have hard coded here, I will say this dot input hero. That's good, that's nice. So if I go here and let's type Black Panther. Oops, I think I have not saved that. Okay, so saved, and it's refreshed automatically, and now I will type Black Panther and change my hero, and yay, yeah, you can see Black Panther is here. And we just have to do one thing. We have to blank this, and one more part, that if it is empty, I don't want anyone to click here, so that one Iron Man gone without typing anything. So let's see how we can do that. So I will say disabled if input hero does not have any value. So input hero does not exist. Okay, so it's like null, that means it's not exist. So now go and you can see it's not here. But if I say anything, yeah, it's now here. It's active, not disabled, but remove, it is disabled. That's nice. And then after, when we change the hero, we want this dot input hero is equal to again null. Okay, so refresh, and you will see here, if I type Black Panther once more, change my hero, it is empty, and it is now changed to Black Panther. So this is actually the data binding, and all these data binding, you can see all these data binding we have used the click event, we have used the interpolation, we have used the ng model, we have used the binding, everything comes here. So what the next in the category of architecture overview, the most important part called directives. But what actually directive? Directive makes templates dynamic. And what dynamic means? You will say, Sarthak, this is also a dynamic thing. Yeah, but it's not fully dynamic. What if I want to change, I want to remove this from our DOM? So how we will do that? That comes with the directive. So Angular has two type of directive: structural directive and attribute directive. So as the name suggests, the directive which changes the structure of template called structure directive, and the directive which is like attribute, then attribute directive. We will see both these things in action. So what are structural directives? Structural are ng for or ng if. Let's first see these things in action. So suppose instead of hero as a Iron Man only one, I have more than one hero. So like Spider-Man, then I have again Black Panther, and then I have Ant-Man and etc. So that's good, but how we will show all these things here? So do I have to say like this, like 0 and then 1? Yeah, this will work, but it will not the recommended way of doing that. You can say it's working, it's not like Angular. So here, instead of this, I will say star or asterisk ng for, and asterisk is extremely important. So ng for, inside double quotes, I will say let hero of heroes. Okay, and if we have to change this, heroes, not hero only. So save this and let's go to Chrome and let's see the result. Yeah, you can see the 4 items are here: Iron Man, Spider-Man, Black Panther and Ant-Man. But again, I want to push one more from here inside this. But before that, let's see how we can use ngIf. To have ngIf in our system, suppose I have a button which says add more, and then these two things, that means the button and the input box, will come. So let's firstly do one thing. Move this input box here, give a br tag here, and then inside this I will say a simple button which says add more, and let's give a class of btn info. Okay, and let's see how it's look like. So you can see this is looking good, but I want to hide this. I only want this when I click on add more. So here I want to click, and we know that I have to say click, then the method name will be, let's say, add more, and when I click here, then I want to show this list icon, but I want to hide this before. So ng if I want to say adding more, or simply adding. So if adding is true, then I'm going to show this, otherwise I'm not going to show this. So let's create a new data on our component. So I will say adding is initially false, so that's why this will not going to show. So initially this will not going to show, and you can see it's not going to show. Let's make that add more function. So here comes add more, and here I will say this dot adding is equal to not of this dot adding. This means whatever will be the value, just invert that. But before checking, we have to make this as a function, so use parenthesis here. So now go to Chrome, and if I click on add more, yeah, we have some error. What the error is, add more is not a function. That's because add more, and here it is small a, and also these two adding also with a capital A I have used here. And let's verify this here. Yeah, that's okay, that's fine. Now go to Chrome and click here. Yeah, you can see this is good, and again click, gone, add on, add, gone, add, gone. But next task is to type here new hero name and push that into the list. So let's go to Sublime, and here firstly I will change this button name to add hero, and here is change hero. I will again say add hero, and that's the function name. And let's change this function once more, add hero. And what I want to push the hero in this list. So why not do this dot hero dot push, and inside this push we want this to be there inside this parenthesis, and everything is already set up. But you can see we don't have any hero property here, so why not do that to heroes. And one thing more, let's see here, if I try to add a new hero, let's see, let's add the green great Hulk, add hero. Yeah, it's added, but this part is still here. I want to remove this or hide this also, so why not do this dot with the capital A adding is equal to false. Once more, let's go to Chrome. It's now refreshing, and this time the turn of Captain America, capital A, respect Captain America. Okay, so add heroes, and add hero is there. So if you want, you can give a button to remove this, and it's like homework, you can do that. And if you don't able to do that, just message me, I will surely help you. But the next task is our attribute directive. What attribute directive is? We have seen that structural directive actually change the structure, it remove or add the content from our DOM. But what attribute directive will do? It's like ng model, we have already seen that it can change the attribute or simply the attributes of any HTML tag. We have like a class we have style. So let's see how we can give any class. So if I now go to Chrome, you can see I have Captain America, but if I try to add Hulk, and what I want to give Hulk a green color, the Hulk color. So I want to give Hulk, but if the text is Hulk, so why not do one thing? Let's go here, Marvel Heroes dot component dot html, and I will say here inside square bracket I will say ng class, and that should be inside double quotes and then single curly braces. And firstly the class name we are going to give those, so text success, so success. And when this is going to attach, this is going to attach when, so for that we have to give the colon, when hero is exactly equal to Hulk. Okay, so this is good, and now save this, and this will refresh. And now if I try to give HULK, look this clearly, it will going to give you the Hulk with a green color. You can see the green color Hulk is here, and that's because if I now inspect this element, we should get text success class is applied. In this way we can use the directives. So let's see the next architecture of what we have. So after directives we have services and dependency injection. What is services? Services is just like a class with a narrow or well-defined purpose, and it's not forced by Angular, but it's recommended by Angular so that your code will be distributed and it will be nice to handle, easy to read. And how we will create services, how dependency injection work, I will demonstrate you rather than telling you. So to create a service, it's simple, easy. And if I now create one marvel hyphen hero dot service dot ts is a class, and now is a class which I'm going to export class and call it heroes service. And what this will going to do, actually you can see we have this whole list of heroes. So sometimes what happen in a real project, you don't have this kind of structure. You may use this or get this list via some kind of API system, some kind of Axios call or Ajax call. Then you have to separate that thing. So suppose this class will only responsible for one thing, which is getting the list of the heroes. So it's like it's using the single responsibility principle. This means a class has to be only responsible for doing only one thing. So this class is only responsible for getting the list of these heroes. But how we will use this in our component? So in our component, in the constructor, we have to say private and then whatever the name you want to give, or simply the Ajax call, and that should be hero service. And let's import this at the top. So import hero service from, and because this is on the same folder, no need to go anywhere else, then we have to define as a providers. So this is a provider which is hero service, and here we are providing in this component. But if you have any service for two places or two component, then you can define individually on each component. But if the service is used by whole project, then on the app.ts and the providers. That's nice. And now let's see how we can use this. So what we can do, you can see we have moved the heroes here. So now firstly I will define a data called heroes, which is a string and array of string. Now I will say here inside the constructor, I will say this dot heroes is equal to this dot ajax dot heroes. So we have moved everything we have here into this string. So if I now go, you can see everything is working absolutely fine. We can give Hulk and which is here. So everything is working. So here, this is the service. So actually anything in the Angular project can be created as a service, and this we are using is called dependency injection. This class is dependent upon this hero service, so dependency injection. So this is all about the Angular architecture. We still have 5 minutes, so let's just see one more thing quickly. So there is pipe things. Think about pipes like filters or modifiers. So you can see we have the heroes, but heroes are written normally. But if I want all these things to be uppercase, so we can give a pipe sign, then say uppercase. It's very simple to use. And now if I go, it's refreshing, and you can see everything is uppercased. Similarly, if you want, you can say lowercased, and these pipe things and pipe functions, we can actually create our custom pipe functions. Obviously that's not in the scope of this video, so we will see that thing later. And next important thing is routing. Suppose we have two components and we want to switch between these two components. So how we will do that? So let's firstly create a new component. So as we know that we can create a new component by saying ng generate gc for component and components, and the component name dc comics. Okay, so dc comics is good, and it will create 4 files, 3 components, and 1 update the app.module. So dc comics is here, and Marvel's dc fight is obvious. Okay, so now let's see how we can show this dc comics. So for dc comics, I will say app dc comics, and let's see the result, how it's look like. So this is going to be, yeah, dc comics is working, but I want to switch between these two with the url. So firstly I have to go to app.module.ts and import router module and routers from @angular router. Okay, we have to firstly import that, and let's now create a constant of route lists. This will be routes, and then we have to provide 2 object inside an array. Okay, so let's give firstly the path. Path will be initially nothing for base url. So here I will say component. So initial component will be our dc comics. So here we have the component, let's just paste here, and the next one is similarly for marvels. So marvels and marvels, the route is marvels. Okay, so this is good, but we have to tell our Angular that yeah, that is route is here, but let's import this. So in the import part I will say router module dot for route, and inside this let's give this route list constant we have given. Okay, so this is good, everything is nice, but one thing we have to go to app.component.html. we can see we are showing both of these component here, but instead of that what we have to do, we have to say here router outlet. Okay, everything is set up, go to Chrome, and let's wait for this, and it's not working because I have wrong spelling for path. So path, that should be good. Refresh one more time, and now you can see the dc comics works. And now if I go to marvels, and you can see dc is gone and our marvels is here. So in this way we can use the routings in the Angular. But next is we have to give the links here. So why not grab the navbar for Bootstrap? So here is the simple navbar. Let's just copy this and go to Sublime, and on our app.component.html where we have the router or outlets, let's give that navbar and save it. Let's see how it's look like. Yeah, that's nice. But now I want to say here, instead of navbar, I will say heroes, and then DC heroes, and second one is Marvel's heroes. Okay, and here instead of href we have to provide router link. So router link is equal to, for Marvels we have Marvels, and for DC Marvel, oops, router link is just the base URL. So that's it. Save and do one thing, delete other two so that we don't see that. Okay, so now on this Chrome we can see we have two links, and if I click on DC, yeah, DC is here, Marvel is here, and you can see there is no reload of page. This is so quick. That's why I love Angular. So this is very nice. So we have done quite a lot of things. This is not the end of Angular. Obviously there is much more things. So the conclusion is the components are the basic part of Angular. It's the heart of Angular, and then we can define some properties of components via metadata, and then we use template, and the template communicate with the components via event binding, and the components communicate to templates via property bind. So this is all about from my side the Angular. If you still have any kind of problem, feel free to message me, comment me, and if you have learned something from Bitfumes, if you want to donate, then you can go to patreon.com/bitfumes to donate $1 or more to encourage me to do this kind of work. And obviously you are going to subscribe and like Bitfumes on Facebook, Twitter and Instagram.